Welcome to this Disability Partnership Calderdale podcast. My name is Philip Ingham and I'm your host. In this edition we have a short news roundup including details of a couple of disability focused events in our area. We also have news of the new Acute Respiratory Infection Hubs that are now up and running across Calderdale. But we'll start with a recent accessibility audit we carried out for a private hospital. Earlier this month, Disability Partnership Calderdale carried out an accessibility audit for a private hospital in South Yorkshire. The hospital was one of a national chain, and they've been having difficulty finding an accessibility auditor following a recommendation by the Care Quality Commission, better known as the CQC, that they bring in an outside organisation to look at their facility. Disability Partnership Calderdale carries out this kind of work on a regular basis, often on Calderdale infrastructure projects, such as the new Halifax bus station. We also recently gave Huddersfield Royal Infirmary's patient signage a once-over from the perspective of visually impaired visitors. Representing Disability Partnership Calderdale at the audit were trustees Malcolm, who uses a wheelchair, and Marion, who has a visual impairment and also uses a mobility scooter. They were accompanied by Disability Partnership Calderdale workers Martin and Nikki, who collated observations during the visit and will be compiling a report for the hospital. The hospital was largely used for elective surgery, with hip and knee operations perhaps the most common treatments. Spread over 3 floors, the facilities were largely modern, extremely clean and well ordered. So, were we able to find any areas for improvement? Our observations focused on several key issues. Firstly, although extremely neat and uncluttered, almost all the signage in the hospital used a fairly small font. Signs were often quite small, and many were positioned high on walls and doors, or, in many cases, well above the eye line of a standing adult. This put them well beyond the eye line of people in wheelchairs. Our report will recommend that the signage use a much larger font size and that more of the signs are repeated. For example, toilet signs that are at a wheelchair user's eye level or a little above, which can be seen from both directions when approaching a sign. Our visit to Huddersfield Royal Infirmary revealed a very cluttered, confusing and often bewildering array of signs at every corridor entrance. In contrast, this private hospital had far less confusing set of signs, but ones which were simply not big enough to work for visitors with visual impairments. Elsewhere, also from the perspective of a person with visual impairments, some of the corridors of the private hospital had white floors, white walls and white ceilings. This lack of contrast can produce an effect not dissimilar to snow blindness for some visual impairments. We will be recommending adding contrasting boundaries to walls, floors and doorways. In other parts of the hospital, this had already been achieved with contrastingly darker floor coverings and contrastingly painted skirting boards and door frames. A small but important detail concerning the glass sliding doors leading from the car park into the reception was also noticed. These glass doors lack the graphics or etching effects which help guide dogs to recognise the presence of glass. Dogs have difficulty interpreting glass doorways, and simple stick-on lines and graphics at their eye level can make all the difference for them. This is obviously important in the case of guide dogs, which are effectively their owner's eyes. Another key area where we were able to make recommendations was in the provision of accessible toilets. Although a number of the hospital's toilets were signposted as having disability access, only a couple of them actually provide the combination of space for turning a wheelchair, handrails aiding access from wheelchairs to the toilet, and suitable toilet height for easy lateral transfer from wheelchair to seat. Most of the toilets, despite being labelled disabled, were too cramped for a wheelchair and lacked crucial handrails, like the one needed to close the toilet door. A traditional single door handle is often out of reach for a wheelchair user making it frustratingly impossible to shut the door behind you as you enter the toilet. A combination of better understanding of which toilets are genuinely accessible and signage that accurately reflects this will help and should be easy to implement. When making an accessibility visit, we believe that we're working with the facilities managers and helping them to make better decisions on new facilities and on how to most effectively improve and optimise already established facilities. A few final details we highlighted included a lack of spaces for wheelchairs in otherwise accessible waiting rooms. Gaps at the end of rows of chairs are essential if wheelchair visitors are not to find themselves waiting in passageways and in corridors. We also noted equipment being stored directly outside an accessible toilet, effectively blocking the door. This equipment included, ironically, wheelchairs. We found the hospital managers very open to change and very welcoming, and we will be sending them a detailed report in the next few days and feel reassured that they will use them to improve all-round accessibility at the hospital. And now we turn to the news, starting with some local events. The Leeds International Day of Disabled People Marketplace event is being held at Leeds City Museum, Millennium Square, Leeds, LS2 8HB, on Tuesday the 3rd of December, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. This free and inclusive event will feature a marketplace with over 20 stalls showcasing local disability support organisations. It promises to be a great day with performances, guest speakers, an opportunity to discuss transport, an art zone, a quiet sensory room, and BSL interpreters. The venue is accessible, with ramp access to the entrance lifts, accessible toilets, and changing places. Parking is limited due to the city centre location, but there are nearby bays for drop-off. Volunteers wearing high vis will be available all day to help you navigate the museum. So that's the Leeds International Day of Disabled People Marketplace event, being held at Leeds City Museum, Millennium Square, LS2 8HB, and that's on Tuesday the 3rd of December, 11 a.m. till 3 p.m. The Activate Inclusive Sport Festival is a day full of inclusive sport and physical activity, which will be held at the Zone, Huddersfield, on Thursday the 21st of November, from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. It's open to individuals of all ages and abilities, and this free event encourages participation from family, friends and carers to support and engage alongside participants. So that's the Zone in Huddersfield, Thursday the 21st of November, 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. It's a free event, but probably best to register, and also for any inquiries about it, use this email. It's Active8, that's ACTIV8 at disabilitysportyorkshire.org. So that's Active8 with an 8, disabilitysportyorkshire.org. Construction hoardings at the Victoria Theatre Halifax have now been removed, revealing how work is progressing to transform future visits to the venue, and there's very much an accessibility theme to the changes. The Victoria Theatre is an impressive Grade 2 listed building and one of the top live performing arts venues in the region. Funding from the government's Future High Streets Fund is being used to update and enhance the building, improving the experience for those visiting and ensuring that more people can enjoy all that the theatre has to offer. Work has been taking place to support improved access to theatre facilities, with the latest milestones including the installation of 3 new lifts. A new passenger lift between the box office and circle level, along with a stair lift at circle level, will take visitors with access requirements into the circle bar for the first time in the venue's history. The circle bar serves as a small event space for the venue, so these new lifts mean that people with limited mobility can enjoy the theatre's small-scale events programmes, including the monthly Dick and Liddy's Comedy Club and the theatre's alternative grassroots music programme, Antidote. A platform lift will also support access between the foyer and stalls level, enabling those with access requirements to enter the building through the main doors. 2 new accessible toilets have also been installed, which will provide additional facilities for those with access needs. In response to the rise in respiratory infections, the local NHS in Calderdale have now got 5 acute respiratory hubs running in the area. If a registered patient contacts their GP practice with any of the symptoms, which I'm just going to read out to you, they are eligible for direct booking into the acute respiratory hub for their primary care network area. So here are the symptoms: an acute cough, cold, flu or COVID-like symptoms, breathlessness, trouble breathing and or wheezing, flare-ups of asthma or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, sinus infection, sore throat, earache or ear infections with fever or discharge, and chest tightness that's only once been checked with a GP. The acute respiratory hubs operate typically between 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. and are set up so that people with respiratory conditions can achieve the treatment they need without having to go to the A&E or wait for a GP appointment. So here are the 5 respiratory hubs. In the Upper Calder Valley, there's Todmorden Health Centre. For Central Halifax, there's the Horn Street Surgery. Calder and Ryburn areas have the Station Road Surgery and the Bankfield Surgery. North Halifax is the Plane Trees Group Practice. And in the Lower Valley, we've got the Ridings Hall Surgery. Well, that's it for this Disability Partnership Calderdale podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening. You can find lots more news and events on our website, disabilitypartnershipcalderdale.org, where you can also sign up to our free newsletter and podcast email service. Thanks again for listening.